Good deal.
He moves to the family room because if he's at his computer, it echoes. So
Yeah.
he watches on his iPad.
Yeah. It's probably a little more comfortable too.
I don't know.
All right. Here we go, folks. We are
Okay.
live.
Step into the light, step into the love, step into the truth of who you are. Step into the light, step into the love, step into the truth of who you are. Step into the light, step into the love, step into the truth of who you are. Step into the light, step into the love, step into the truth of who you are. Step into the light. You are beautiful, just the way you are. Step into the love. You're illuminated by the glory of God's love. Step into the truth. From within, your abundance overflows. Our love can change one life. One life can change the world. Step into the light. Step into the love. Step into the truth of who you are. Step into the light. Step into the love. Step into the truth of who you are. Step into the light, step into the love, step into the truth of who you are. Step into the light, step into the love, step into the truth of who you are. I am the light of the world. You are the light of the world. We are the light of the world. So move with me. Step with me. Step into the light. Step into the love. Step into the truth of who you are. Step into the light. Step into the love. Step into the truth of who you are. Step into the light. Step into the love. Step into the truth of who you are. Step into the light. Step into the love. Step into the truth of who you are. I am the light of the world. You are the light of the world. We are the light of the world. So move with me. Step with me. Step into the light.
Welcome, beloveds, to Vida Spiritual Learning Center. My name is Sunshine Day, and I get to be the spiritual director. What a joy it is to greet you on this beautiful Sunday morning here on the Pacific Coast, on the West Coast of the United States of America, and to just join in knowing peace throughout the world. You know, today is the beginning of the season for nonviolence. And as I just take a look at the next 64 days and think about nonviolence and think about world peace and think about how the world can unite together as one, I am overjoyed and encouraged by the words and the example of Dr. Martin Luther King and Mahatma Gandhi. So I just want to welcome you to this season for nonviolence and invite you to celebrate the season for nonviolence by looking at all the ways that we can promote peace and love. So, our vision and mission, let's go over that together. By valuing and empowering all, we inspire a fulfilling and joyous life. In Spanish, it's a valorar y potenciar todo. Inspiramos una vida plena y alegre. It is to that consciousness that I welcome you this morning. You know, we're a community that is about spiritual practice, and you'll hear in our message today that it is about practice, 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 and practice actually gets us to the destination and to the desired feeling tone that we want to experience. So with that said, I'm going to invite us into spiritual practice. And today our spiritual practice is being led by our practitioner, Jan Hartman. So, beloveds, just surrender these next a few minutes to Jan as she gently leads us in meditation and then in an opening prayer. Jan?
Good morning to you all. It's great to see all your beautiful faces this morning. I would love to lead you into a meditation, some spiritual practice about how we get very clear on how we know who we are, what we are, and how that all fits together and how it expands our belief into something called proof, and how it moves us into a space of believing and knowing and receiving everything that is ours. And sometimes we have to dive deep into something called breath and deep into stillness to be able to figure out and remember and recall, oh yes, I know who I am. Oh yes, I know. So if you'll do that with me today for a few minutes, and you can close your eyes if you choose, and allow me to just guide you for a few minutes as we move into a place where there's no confusion, a place where no matter how the journey feels on the outside, the inside is always soft and good and filled with love and oneness and connectedness that will turn us round right. So we go deep into the roots of what we know to be true. And we aim even higher in our consciousness, claiming peace, love, compassion, and grace. So let's take the time to breathe. Breathing slowly into what brings you to the center of you, to the beauty of you, to the wonder of you. Taking a slow breath in, knowing that that is God. Releasing a breath, knowing that is also God. Moving back and forth in a rhythm of in and out that is God, that is grace, that is the divine of everything, moving through you, and you can find a way to rest in the breath of God. God is breathing you, loving you, and the stillness will reveal for you everything that you need to be secure and filled with the proof of who you are. One of the things that comes to mind as I lead you into this is that sometimes we stay where we are instead of moving forward. Until you seek something that is more than you are already doing, you will continue receiving what is already here. So move higher, aim higher, and unify yourself with the divine presence in everything during these moments. And in this still breathing of love, know that divine spirit is operating through you right here and right now. Know that you are not limited by anything that has happened or is now happening. Be aware that the truth is making you free from any belief in want or lack or limitation, for they are nothing. Your roots are deep in divine love. Remember that you are guided and inspired by the same imagination and intelligence that scatters the moonbeams across the waves. You are guided and inspired by the same imagination and intelligence that scatters the moonbeams across the waves. And take the time to experience a calm conviction for your union with good, your oneness with God. You are always leading yourself to the pathway of peace and happiness. All is well, and all is here for you and for everyone, right here, right now, in this deep breath that is God. And above all, remember that this time is deeply rooted in the truth of oneness. God as source, God as love, God as divine and perfect expression. No rocky terrain here, no boulders here, only peace, only love, only good. And then, ever so softly, ever so calm, ever so rested and revived, begin to bring your awareness back to this space in time, this community of Zoom and Facebook and YouTube, this time of together, this time of awareness and love and smiles and grace and gratitude. As you look around you and know that there is a tribe that knows love, knows God, knows peace, knows all, and it is you, as you, through you, and every part of all of us that are here at the sound of my voice. And so hear my prayer right now. For we move into a time of community and new messages to light your world and those people around you, because it's all good, it's all God, ever moving, shifting, and changing. Because we are one, we are always one, have always been one, and always will be one. Claiming balance, calling forth strength and joy, and claiming space, claiming our space in our life. Each one part of the whole of God's delicious creations. We are expressed divinely right here and now. And a message from Reverend Sunshine on its way, bringing a new communion through words and light and joy. I am filled with gratitude and appreciation for all that I can claim and know here in this moment. That the peace and the joy that I can embrace, because I know that my life is the life that God is, and that is true for me and for all. I place my words of love and faith into the law of love, knowing that they are all, everything is sourced, everything is operating. The Infinite One is already filling us to the brim, and we are open and we are surrendered, and God is in, as, and through us. So it is, and now it is.
Well, thank you so much. And let's show Jan some love. That was beautifully, beautifully done. What a great way to continue our gathering here together today. Well, I just have a few announcements. As usual, we have Minute Miracles with our practitioner, like Jan. Immediately after service, we pair you in a breakout room in Zoom so that you can have a one-to-one connection with a practitioner and they will know the spiritual truth for you. And we also have sacred service opportunities as always. So if you feel called to serve our community in some way, it might be one of the things that we have listed here. It might be something else that you feel called to enrich our community. And just reach out to anyone on our spiritual or leadership teams, and we will greatly appreciate any efforts, any time, talents, and treasures you have to offer. So thank you for that. And I will have Reverend Sunshine fill you in on this announcement.
Good morning again, beloveds. We have a one-time class, a one-time gathering, Activando Mi Abundancia, which is activating my abundance, and it is geared towards our Spanish-speaking community, which continues to grow behind the scenes. And so if you know anyone who speaks Spanish, who is interested in activating their abundance, this is going to be happening right here at Vida Spiritual Learning Center on Wednesday, the 9th of February at 6 p.m. via Zoom. All they have to do is send us an email and say, I want in, and we will give them the Zoom address so that they can join in. So if you speak Spanish, or if someone you love speaks Spanish and wants to begin to activate their abundance, please invite them to this class. It is absolutely free. It is on a love offering basis, and it is about to change some lives. So wanted to make sure that we have that out in the universe for all of our Spanish speakers on activating my abundance, activando mi abundancia. The other announcement that I want to make has no slide, but what I want to announce is that during our spiritual living convention in Indian Wells a couple of weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, our very own Reverend Kevin Cottle became an ordained minister. So let's highlight Reverend Kevin. Highlight yourself, Reverend Kevin. Put your face up there. And for those of you on Zoom, go ahead and unmute and just like, there he is. You know, ordination, right? Yes.
Oh, how wonderful.
Wow,
Ordination
Well
is something, it's a sacred call. And we'll soon announce our celebration of Reverend Kevin. It is indeed a sacred call. It means that his life is the life of a minister. The life of a minister really means someone who contributes to the spiritual well-being of the planet, of the people around him, of all life. And I'm soon to just start calling ourselves metaphysicians. And so Reverend Kevin is an ordained metaphysician, and so it is, and we celebrate you and we honor you on this path of saying yes to a lifetime of contributing to our spiritual well-being and wholeness. You have definitely been a blessing in my life, so thank you.
Mine too.
You are welcome. It's my pleasure. Mhm. Thank you. All right. And continuing, thank you so much for all of that. That was fantastic. An unexpected pleasure of the day on top of this pleasure of the day. Do want to give thanks to others for their service. To our practitioner of the day, Jan Hartman, beautifully done. Thank you so much. To our beloved spiritual director and her message to Reverend Sunshine. So let's thank her now and thank her always. To those folks who are looking after our live stream, folks that are looking in on Facebook and YouTube live streams, thank you for doing that. To our leadership council for continuing to do fantastic work on behalf of our community. And as Reverend Sunshine has, and as you're all now aware, I mean, we're transitioning into a new category and to a new name and to really to a unique and new way of doing this spiritual learning center. So thanks to them and thanks to all of you for working and staying and persevering and contributing to that process, and most of all to enrolling in our vision. And thanks to our music team for continuing to be the creative musical force behind our community. And to all of you for joining us here today. It's a great pleasure and an honor for you to be here. I thank you and we thank you. And back to a spiritual practice, in this case, giving as a spiritual practice. The earth plane way in which you can give in this instance is to send your gift to our post office box, which is 3350 East 7th Street, Box 529. That is in Long Beach, California, 90804. Or you might choose to use your bill pay service, or you might use the donate buttons or links that are in your email and on the website and in the chat. I've already posted it. And you can use Zelle as a service, and you can Zelle to vida at vidaslc.org. So those are the ways in which you give, but the consciousness with which you give is what elevates this to a spiritual practice. And that means that being mindful while giving, that means just examining or intending the feeling, the positive feeling you intend as you give. And for me, it's a feeling of generosity, just feeling generous, or feeling just overflowing with goodness in my life, that this is a natural circulation, and it's symbolized by other things, but it's a circulation of living spirit. And so with that in mind, I would invite you to hold your hands over your heart. This is an opportunity for you to unmute. We say this statement in giving simultaneously in Spanish and English. I'm going to choose English today, and here we go.
La
Abundance
abundancia
flows in my
fluye por
life.
mi vida.
I am
Estoy
blessed with
bendecido con
prosperity.
prosperidad.
I
Doy
give
con un
with
sentimiento de generosidad.
generosity. Yes.
Sí,
I
diezmo
tithe
sobre
on
la fe y
faith,
la
belief,
creencia
and
y
with a
con una
consciousness of
conciencia
love.
de amor.
My
Mi
gift is a
regalo
divine
es la
circulation
circulación
through me
divina a
that
través
now
de mí, que
benefits and
ahora
grows our
beneficia y hace
spiritual
crecer
community
nuestra
and
comunidad
beyond.
espiritual y más allá.
And now it
Y
is.
ahora es.
So I just invite you to take this song in as we prepare ourselves for today's message.
I'm walking in the Spirit, walking in the Spirit, walking in the Spirit of one God, loving in the Spirit, loving in the Spirit, loving in the Spirit of one God, moving in the Spirit, oh, moving, I'm moving in the Spirit, oh, the Spirit, oh, God, growing in the Spirit, every day I'm growing in the Spirit, growing in the Spirit, the Spirit, oh, one God.
Today I'm going to talk about living everyday wonder as we wrap up the theme for the month, which is living everyday wonder, and the theme for the year, living everyday wonder. And actually today is prove it. And for me, when I think of prove it, it takes me back to some of my childhood days when we would go like, oh yeah, we'll prove it. And so in that childlike exploration, in that childlike prove it, like show me the money, prove it to me, make it plain, make it real, we're actually going to take a look at proving the science of mind philosophy. And we're going to look at just exploring and dissecting and unpacking this idea that this is a science and spirituality, and that science really speaks to proving things. It's scientific, and so there's always proof, there's always a formula in which we get to the conclusions that we get to, and spirituality being about our practice. So let's just take a look here at what we have in store today. Again, today is January the 30th, so it's Prove It. And it's interesting what Ernest Holmes has to say about proving it. In his own words, he says, one of the greatest difficulties in the new order of thought is that you are likely to engage and to indulge in too much theory and too little practice. Too little practice and too much indulging in theory. And though today we are going to talk about it, my hope and my encouragement and what I am calling forth is that over the next 11 months of 2022 that we actually engage in practice, and that we stop theorizing so much, and that we actually engage in practice. Because we have this theory that I become what I practice. And so imagine proving that. Imagine at the end of the year that we've engaged in our practice so deeply and so heavily and so wonderfully and joyously that we're actually demonstrating in our lives that which we talk about, right? We talk about a lot of stuff, talk. But when we prove it, we actually must take some action, and not only take that action, but as a result of the action, we get to see something different. So I want to bring up this slide here. And this is, a scientific method, and I'm going to come back to religious science and science of mind in just a moment. But I want to take us to this place where we begin to think scientifically, and we begin to actually see that there's what I like to call a method to the madness. And so we might have an observation in our life. What is the observation in your life? As you begin to ask questions. Oh, I notice that I'm super negative, or I notice that my bank account isn't where I want it to be, or my health isn't where I want it to be, or my relationships and friendships are not where I want it to be, or I notice that my career is not where I want it to be, or this place is where I want it to be, or other places are not. And so we start off with this observation and this question, and we begin to then move into the researching the topic, and we come up with a hypothesis. And for us, sometimes our hypothesis, well, not sometimes, part of our language is change your thinking, change your life, and that's a hypothesis. A hypothesis is meditation helps to lower your blood pressure, or meditation helps to shift and change your body chemistry, or meditation shifts and changes your mind so that you're responding more instead of reacting more. And so what begins to happen is that as we have this hypothesis, we have to prove it. So we begin to test it with our experiment. And so if it's around money, if it's around our career, our job, if it's around our serenity and our tranquility, that meditation can bring us to that place, then what we do is we test it. And how we test it is we must take some action. We must actually do something to increase something or reduce something, to increase our happiness, our joy, our experience of loving life, or to reduce the feeling of stress, anxiety, pain, fear, things of that nature. And after a certain amount of time of doing this practice or doing this thing over and over again, we analyze the data. We begin to take a look at how we're feeling, our temperature. We begin to really analyze our body. And from there, we can report the conclusions. And then we come to another question or observation. And so what's interesting about that formula or that method is that is the way science proves a hypothesis, a question. That is how we begin to say, yeah, A plus B equals C, or it doesn't, based on taking some action. And so what we've been talking about all month is that spiritual living doesn't happen on the meditation cushion, and it doesn't happen on Sunday mornings. And that's exactly why we're changing up what we're doing, because Sunday mornings is a wonderful time to get together and hear an inspirational message, possibly begin to practice, meditation or some other spiritual practice, but spiritual living is actually a way of life. And so what our goal at Vida Spiritual Learning Center is to actually begin to provide bite-sized spirituality, so that on a daily basis and on a regular basis in everyday activities that you're applying the spiritual tools and the principles in all of the areas of your life, so that when you do that and when you begin to practice, that you're making different choices for yourself, that your thinking is clearer, and that what begins to happen is that you're living spiritually and it feels like a miracle, but it's just everyday wonder as a result of your spiritual practice. Now, we gotta, and I say got to, right? Like, that's all my English slang, right? My New York English slang. Like, we gotta get with it, in that action that is necessary are the steps that we take on a regular basis. It's interesting to watch people in 12-step program, because that is a life of action. They are actually, seeking a higher power. They're actually seeking a relationship with source energy, with the divine, with spirit, that they're actually seeking this relationship with the divine, or recognizing that their life is the life of the divine in such a way that they're able to put down the drugs, the alcohol, the weapons of mass distraction. Now, if we take a look at, the scientific method and the way that circular method went, once you have the hypothesis and you put it into action, you get to analyze the data, and the data around 12-step recovery is actually pretty strong. And the data around religious science and science of mind and this philosophy and incorporating it in our lives is also very, very strong. The science is objective, and the science just says, hey, does doing this get you the demonstration? Does it get you the outcome that we think it will have? Yes or no? And sometimes, we need to ask a different question and to have a different practice to actually get to that place. However, it is been proven over and over and over again that using our philosophy, using our spiritual tools, actually provides personal transformation. I know that my life has been transformed as a result of these personal tools, these spiritual tools, and they provide this personal transformation. So, it's easy to say, oh, something doesn't work, especially if we don't try it, or if we only try it once or twice, or, just kind of do it haphazardly. But it's another thing to actually have a hypothesis and put some things into place to actually really see if it does work. I want to share this with you, and that is, Ernest Holmes says that I would rather see students of this science prove its principles than have them repeat all the words of wisdom that have ever been uttered. He'd rather have us prove its principles. And the only way we can prove them is by incorporating them in our lives. How are you incorporating these spiritual tools in your life? And if you haven't, and if you're not, or if you need the reminder that it's time to begin again and to practice it again, the question then becomes like, what is it that you want to feel? Do you want to have that sense of affluence or abundance or prosperity, or, do you want to live in balance, or feel a sense of completeness, or be so trusting in the wisdom and the inner intelligence of your life? do you want to experience freedom and safety and joy and health and compassion? Well, if you want to experience any one of these things, all of these things can actually be made manifest and can actually be demonstrated. And they're demonstrated when we actually engage in what we've been posting here on a weekly basis, what we practice daily practice. So our meditation practice, our stillness, sitting in the stillness and in the silence, our treatment, which is really prayer, our study, our journaling, our visioning on a daily basis. And then on a weekly basis, what are the things that you're engaging in? Coming here, watching this talk, watching this inspirational message is part of education. It's part of taking it in. But actually being in beloved community, being with a group of love-minded people who are interested in the advancement of science of mind, that are interested in the advancement of a world that works for everyone. That's being in the beloved community. And that is so key and so very important. Seeing a spiritual counselor, giving as a spiritual practice, that act of tithing and giving as a spiritual practice is going to be important. And it's important because when we're practicing certain things, then we're able to then analyze the data. And so here's some of what I want to share with you, and that is this idea of prosperity, of abundance, of wealth, of opulence. In so many countries, so many cities and towns and states, people want to experience abundance, and yet there's a simple practice. So if this is you, there's a simple practice that you can begin engaging in on a regular basis, and you can prove. Here's an opportunity to prove it, right? So just changing your thoughts, change your thinking, change your life. What begins to happen is as you begin to change not only your thoughts, but the way that you think, that actually begins to shift and change, and you begin to actually recognize and see life differently. When you change the way you see things, the things you see change, right? But the reason that happens is because then all of a sudden your beliefs start to change, your behaviors start to change. And so around the area of abundance, the idea is to not only change your thoughts, but to change your beliefs and to change your behaviors so that you experience abundance. Oh, well, I think positive. Thinking positive is not going to work simply on its own. There has to be an action that's taken. And that action that is taken is in the book of Malachi, when the scripture says that bring me the whole tithe, bring the whole tithe into the storehouse, that there may be food in my house. Test me. That is also sometimes described as prove me this, test me in this, and see if I will not throw open the floodgates of heaven and pour you out so much blessing that there will not be enough room to store it. I remember singing a song like that, open up, open up and pour you out a blessing that you will not have room to receive it. Now, Edwene Gaines, in her book, A Simple Guide to Unlimited Abundance, she talks about this. She talks about her story and her experiment and her practice of tithing. Tithing is, giving a tenth of whatever it is that you have, whatever it is that you receive. If you give a tenth of it. Now, if you can imagine 10 rolls of toilet paper, and you have 10 rolls of toilet paper, and you give one of those toilet papers to Vida's Spiritual Learning Center. And you say, here, Vida, this is for you. And what do you have left? You have 9 rolls of toilet paper left. Like, what can you do with 9 rolls of toilet paper? You can probably do a lot, right? If you have $100 that you have received, right? And you take $10 and you gift that, you bring that to Vida Spiritual Learning Center as a gift and a tithe. You have $90 left in which you can do so much. Sometimes we don't even recognize the abundance that is right in front of us by simply practicing that when we receive, if we simply give a tenth, 10% of that we are actually recognizing our abundance in the 90% that we get to keep. Now imagine, would you rather have 90% or would you rather have nothing? See, so many times, folks have nothing or they don't want to prove it. This is a way that you can prove it. Now, it's interesting because Edwene, when she shares her story of giving her last dollar, nobody's asking you to give your last, but she gave her last dollar. And Edwene is one of the most prosperous and abundant and wealthiest people that I know. Like, not Oprah status, of course, or that magnitude, but OMG, like, she has enough to spare, enough to share. And this is, her message in the four laws of prosperity, a simple guide to abundance. She outlines exactly how to do it. Are you willing to take the action? I said it again, in 12-step program, the reason it works is because people in recovery take action for their lives and they practice. And the same can be said for Science of Mind, that as we begin to practice, that we begin to practice and practice and practice and practice, we get back to that place of proving our life, proving our demonstration. I know that when I was a practitioner, I can tell you that when I was a practitioner, and every time we had to renew our license, we had to submit stories of when we actually worked with clients and worked with everyday people, and through prayer we were able to have a demonstration. I remember one time, and I'll say this, and this was a really fun demonstration for me. I remember being in a Lowe's or a parking lot, or like a Home Depot parking lot, and I saw this car. It was amazing. It was blue. It was just an amazing sport car. It was a 2-seater, and when I saw this person, drive up in it and get out, I was like so excited. And I was like, congratulations, that's a great looking car. What is it? And that person said, oh, it's a Saturn Sky. And I said, oh, my name is Sunshine. I gotta have one of those, Sunshine in the Sky. And she said, oh, well, you have to order it. It takes about 6 weeks and you have to order it before you get it. And I was like, well, congratulations, enjoy your car. And I was just so excited, and I automatically put myself in that car, Sunshine in the Sky. And a few days later, I was at home, and I was like, oh yeah, that's Saturn Sky, let me look it up. And I get on my computer and I go to Saturn and I take a look, and all of a sudden I begin to create my car, because it's like build your own car here. And and it was like, I was like, oh, what color do I want? And I wanted the sunlight yellow, and I wanted the 20-inch tires, and the windscreen, and the mud flaps, and all of these things, and I just started designing my car. And I picked up my phone and I called and I said, hey, I want to get one of your Saturns. And they were like, oh yeah, bring in $1,000 and in 6 weeks we can have your car. I go, you don't understand. I want my car today. I want my car now. And then, they were like, well, it's going to take 6 weeks. And so I was like, all right, thanks. And then I looked up another dealership and I called again and I was like, hey, I want one of your Saturn Skies. And they were like, oh, well, we got a gray one over. I'm like, no, not gray. You don't understand. I want yellow with, and I started to describe the car that I had created on their website. And the guy says, oh, that sounds exactly like the car my general manager drives. And I go, you don't understand. That's my car. And, the guy on the other end of the phone said, okay, give me your number. I'll, let me call you back. And probably about a half an hour later, he calls me back and he goes, yeah, I talked to my general manager. If you want the car, come and get it. It's yours. And it was like, okay. And I did a trade-in and got the car, and there it was, sunshine in the sky. And what is that? What is that? Is that just the power of my word, or is that actually putting my faith into action? And so as we prove it today, as we begin to use our prayer, our meditation, our visioning, our speaking the word, speaking it with conviction, our tithing, as we begin to give as a spiritual practice, as we begin to actually put these things into place and practice these things, our life proves what we've been practicing. And so I want to leave us today with our affirmation, our affirmation for the week. And it's pretty simple. The affirmation for the week is, I become what I practice. And my invitation to each of us is, over the next 11 months, let us become what we practice. Are we practicing negativity, despair, anxiety, strife, pain, sorrow, lack, limitation? Or are we indeed then practicing the things that we want to have, like affluence and opulence and clarity and freedom and peace? And so if indeed we want to prove it, then let's go ahead and prove it by remembering that I become what I practice. Until next week, know that you are loved. Bye for now.
Well, thank you for that great message.
You're so welcome.
All right. There you are. You're a little fuzzy.
I am. I don't know what happened to my camera. I think since we have a couple of minutes, let's just go into prayer before we sing our closing prayer. And as I close my eyes and invite you all to close your eyes, I simply give thanks for the word spoken, the word that has come through so many channels just to be said, to be received, to be heard. Grateful for the reminder that it is indeed through our spiritual practice that we live our genuine life. Grateful for our abundance, grateful for our peace and our wholeness, grateful to know that there's one power, one presence, one life, that life is the life of the divine, and that life is my life now. I'm so grateful and in deep, deep appreciation to know that the life of the divine is being lived and experienced in, through, and as each and every one. That there is no respecter of person, that this power and presence is living beautifully and magnificently as each and every one of us. And to the degree in which we remember that our life is the life of the divine, fully and wholly, and to the degree that we recognize that it is our very life, it is to that degree that we continue to live out fully, that we continue to practice remembering the truth of who we are. For that is really the only practice, that we practice remembering the truth of who we are. That who we are is the divine expressing in human form. And that which is true of the divine, that which is true of Holy Spirit, that which is true of life itself, that which is true of love, is true about me, is true about all. And so I simply call forth into our experience as the spiritual community known as Vida Spiritual Learning Center. I call forth into our experience love, joy, peace, wholeness, abundance, balance, creativity, and whatever else it is that you're simply calling forth for yourself. Speak that word now. Speak it powerfully. Speak it knowing that that is already who and what you are. And that we're simply practicing remembering the truth of who we are. So for this and so much more, I give thanks, releasing the word, knowing that it demonstrates, meaning that desired outcome is what I get to experience. I get to prove it. I get to demonstrate it, and I get to simply walk by my faith. It is so, and so it is, and now it is. So, beloveds, please join me in singing our closing song and our closing prayer.
This is our prayer, a song of peace. We get to be the change we want to see. With open hearts and open hands, we lift our voices, in love we stand. This is our prayer, a song of peace. We get to be the change we want to see. With open hearts and open hands, we lift our voices, in love we stand. This is our prayer, a song of peace. We get to be the change we want to see. With open hearts and open hands, we lift our voices, in love we stand. We lift our voices, in love we stand. We lift our voices, in love we stand.
Go forth and multiply this consciousness. I love you so much. Bye for now.